Hey everyone, welcome to Movie Marathons HQ, where we do movie marathons connected to new releases and where we enjoy and review some of our favorite movies. Today I have an announcement. We have been working through the Avengers Doomsday movie marathon, and we will continue to do so as we prepare for the release of Avengers Doomsday in December 2026. However, there is another subset of movies in the Avengers Doomsday movie marathon that kind of create their own movie marathon. So today I have an announcement of an additional movie marathon, sort of. Today I'm announcing the Spider-Man Brand New Day movie marathon. There is a new Spider-Man movie that is scheduled to come out in July 2026, so this movie marathon will prepare us specifically for Spider-Man Brand New Day. So, as far as what's included in the Spider-Man Brand New Day movie marathon, there's a few ways you could go about it. The bare bones would be you would have to watch Captain America Civil War, where we are introduced to this version of Spider-Man played by Tom Holland, and then Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, and Spider-Man No Way Home. That would be the bare bones. You might also consider adding Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Spider-Man isn't really in Endgame too much, but he does have a pretty significant role in Infinity War. But if you'd like to follow along with me, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to include the 3 Venom movies, and then I'm also going to include the 3 Spider-Man movies where Tobey Maguire was Peter Parker. Then I'm going to include the 2 Spider-Man movies where Andrew Garfield was Peter Parker. Then the Tom Holland ones that I mentioned before. And then that's all going to work into the Spider-Man Brand New Day movie marathon. I am going to skip Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, even though Spider-Man does feature in those. I don't want to keep adding Infinity War into all of the movie marathons that fit within the Avengers Doomsday movie marathon. So we are going to watch that later on in the year. I just didn't want to push it up ahead here into this movie marathon wherein it does fit better, I think, in the Avengers Doomsday movie marathon. And the reason why I'm including Venom, Venom Let There Be Carnage, and Venom The Last Dance in the Spider-Man Brand New Day movie marathon is because in the post-credits, mid-credits, final credits scenes of Spider-Man No Way Home, we see Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock, and then he even transforms into Venom from the Venom movies, and he's watching the TV while the Daily Bugle reports on Tom Holland as Spider-Man. So for some reason, in the MCU, Eddie Brock and Venom know about our Tom Holland Spider-Man. And then at the end of that scene, Eddie Brock gets transported back to his universe, which presumably is a separate universe than the MCU. He's transported back there, but a little bit of the Black Venom symbiote stays in the MCU universe. I think that's going to have a direct connection to either Spider-Man Brand New Day or Avengers Doomsday or Avengers Secret Wars. So even though the Venom movies are mostly self-contained from the MCU, I'm going to include them in this movie marathon. As far as Spider-Man movies that I'm not going to include, I'm not including Morbius, Madam Web, or Kraven the Hunter. Those are movies that were made pretty recently, and there is some connected tissue between those 3 movies and the Venom movies. However, I don't see those movies connecting to Spider-Man Brand New Day or Doomsday or Secret Wars, so I didn't think it makes sense to add them in here. There is a post-credit scene in Morbius where we do see Michael Keaton portraying Adrian Toomes as the Vulture, with Michael Mando, who's playing Mac Gargan, I think is the name of the Scorpion. So there's this little post-credit scene where there's like this Spider-Man villain, and then there's an MCU Spider-Man villain who are meeting each other, like referencing that. And then we do know that Michael Mando is going to be in Brand New Day as the Scorpion. So that post-credit scene from Morbius maybe has some connection to Brand New Day. But I really didn't want to watch all of Morbius just for that post-credit scene. So I'm not including those main Spider-Man movies. If you want to, you could include them in your movie marathon. I'm also not including Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. They are self-contained and animated, but there is a scene in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse where the Spot character opens up a portal into Mrs. Chen's convenience store, and she's a character in the 3 Venom movies. So somehow Sony, the studio, decided to make a connection between Across the Spider-Verse and the Venom movies. So you could justify putting in those two, and I do love those movies quite a bit. But I didn't think for the purposes of Spider-Man Brand New Day, it really made sense to put it into this overall movie marathon. So I don't have those movies in the marathon. But again, if you wanted to watch them, you certainly could put them in some rotation of your Brand New Day movie marathon. And then one other thing that I'm not including is Mark Ruffalo is playing Bruce Banner in Spider-Man Brand New Day, and he might Hulk out in that movie. We'll see. But I didn't want to include the various Hulk appearances from the MCU back into the Spider-Man Brand New Day movie marathon, partially because we've covered most of those already in the Avengers Doomsday movie marathon, so I didn't want to re-add them in for this one. But they do kind of make sense to put in there. Also featured in Brand New Day is Jon Bernthal playing the Punisher, and there is a new Punisher movie coming out in May 2026. So that is going to be included in this Spider-Man Brand New Day movie marathon. And you could go back and watch Daredevil Season 2, where Jon Bernthal's Punisher is introduced, and that is technically MCU canon. And I believe he's in Season 3 a little bit. Then there's 2 seasons of the Punisher TV show, and you could watch those if you want. Then there's also Daredevil Born Again, where he is featured in Season 1. So you could put those Disney Plus Netflix shows into the movie marathon. I'm not going to because this is a movie marathon. But if you really wanted to get the full story of Frank Castle before we get officially introduced to him in the MCU in Brand New Day, you could include those as well. So that's the announcement of a new movie marathon for Spider-Man Brand New Day. I hope you'll join me for this movie marathon. If you haven't watched the Spider-Man movies or the Venom movies, or if it's been a while since you watched them, then come join along and you can watch those movies with me and share your thoughts as we go through. We're going to start in 2 weeks, and we'll be starting with Venom. Follow Movie Marathons HQ on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And then also on Letterboxd, you will see the Spider-Man Brand New Day movie marathon list if you want to follow along there on Letterboxd. See you at the movies!